Hey everybody, welcome to the couch, episode 29, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, there's a couple different ways this could go. I don't know which way it's going to go, and we'll go on a journey together and see what happens. Me and my band were on a little tour a few years back, just a little short Midwest thing, as we do. And we found ourselves in Iowa, and we had just come off stage, and the headliner was playing. And I got a phone call from my wife saying that our son was complaining of chest pains. And of course, we would later find out that he just had like some real deep bruising from a particularly aggressive game of tag. But at the time, I'm in a backstage room, probably a good solid, I think 5 or 6 hours from home, on the phone with my wife saying we're headed to the ER. Ollie has chest pains. And she said, he's feeling pretty good, but he wants to talk to you. And I said, yeah. And I talked to him on the phone and told him everything was going to be fine. And talked to Tori on the phone, told her everything was going to be fine. And the guys in my band were real kind, obviously, and supportive. But and by the end of the night, I knew everything was fine. But I had this like feeling of guilt, of like I shouldn't be here because I should have been there for that, because that is bigger than this. And the next day, we played in Madison, and then we'd be home that night. So the next day, we're playing in Madison, and I'm still sort of dealing with these feelings of, is it even possible to do the thing I want to do while being the dad that I want to be and the dad that I should be? And it's a conversation that I'm having with myself to this very day, and probably will forever. And it may be the only thing that keeps me from fully becoming, I think sometimes we're supposed to have conversations with ourselves that don't end, because just the having of the conversation keeps us within a certain parameter. Because I do think, leaving your family behind to go play music is not something you should do lightly and without some thought. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who didn't feel some conflict about it and some guilt about it. And I think if you get to the point where you don't feel conflict or guilt, that you could be at the beginnings of a problem. So we're in Madison, and we play like 2 or 3 songs. And I decide, the point of all of this is to connect with people and to tell people the truth. So I launch into a 10-minute bit about how I'm just not feeling it. I'm really struggling. I feel like I'm a bad dad at the moment, and I wasn't there for my son, and it's what's it all for? I'm in Madison. I'm playing a show to 5 people. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really know who I am right now, and that kind of thing. And it was awkward. It was real awkward. I don't really think it accomplished the goal of that I had in my mind, that I'll be honest with these people and we'll connect, and then we'll move forward. We'll keep playing our songs and that kind of thing. Instead, it just got real awkward real fast. And I tell that story because I find myself right now sort of, I just had a couple conversations and went through some thought processes that at the end of which I wasn't thinking, and now I want to sit down on my couch and talk to a bunch of people and play a song and try to do whatever I'm trying to do with this podcast, which is hopefully inspire hope in people and that kind of thing. And I'm not feeling it. I feel very cynical right now and a little sad. And I know that's not a fun podcast to listen to, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes if I'm going to say the things I say on the podcast, that it's okay to feel everything and to experience everything, and the highs and the lows and the happies and the sads, I feel like if that's really true, then maybe occasionally I'm going to shoot one of these podcasts while I feel everything and experiencing some of the lows that we talk about. And I know everything's fine. A lot of it is political. Ugh. Some of it's personal, but a lot of it's political, and a lot of it is just me feeling discouraged. I saw so much last week that I wasn't able to connect to. There was all this joy and jubilance and celebration, and I didn't feel any of it. I felt some relief, but I was celebrating the ending of something that I knew wasn't really ending. And I was sort of marking the beginning of something that I wasn't very excited about, and sort of reckoning with the notion that, it's been, I don't even know, 8 years, 12 years since I voted joyfully. And this isn't a conversation about how voting is pointless, and it's not a conversation we should probably be having at all, because I haven't put a ton of thought into it. But it is a feeling of I guess the universal feeling at the bottom of all of it is that everybody was feeling this sensation or that sensation, either utter joy or complete disappointment. And I was kind of in the middle, going like, there was a thing that I thought was pretty bad that got terrible, and we've gotten it back to pretty bad. And I don't feel celebratory. And I know that's not, the few people that come here don't come here for this. But it is true, and maybe you're feeling the same way, and maybe it just helps to know, like, whereas I was feeling like I'm the only person that feels this way, that can't be true, And if you watch this podcast and you agree with even half of what I say, there's a good chance you're feeling the way I was feeling, that, like, it's good that we stopped a certain thing in as much as we stopped it. But it sort of feels like, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I imagine it feels like a very, very, very watered down version of like the end of a war, where you get home and you're like, we won and we did what we set out to do, but I had to do some things. We all had to do some things, and we had to convince ourselves of some things and that kind of thing. Who knows? Maybe everything will be great. Maybe everything is going to start getting really, really good. And I hope that it does. And I want to be real careful to not let my cynicism get in the way, because I do think people need to be able to celebrate little victories, because sometimes you only get little ones. Sometimes you only get little half victories. Sometimes you only get victories at the end of compromise. But I just couldn't connect with it for some reason. I tried. I talked to people that were really happy, and I know part of this is like, well, here's a straight white guy saying he doesn't feel excited. And I know, like, for the most part, politics is not about me, and it's not for me, and I don't know. I guess I'm hopeful, and I'm glad that it went as smoothly as it did, and I guess my main hope now is that people get to have their moment, and then we get right back to work. I'm eagerly awaiting the executive order to let those kids out of those cages. Last I heard, 17 executive orders had been signed that did not pertain to letting those kids out of those cages. And I'm testy about it. Because, I'm testy about it. Let's get to some fun stuff, though. I have been making biscuits and gravy from scratch here at the house, and it's been great. There have been no terrible mishaps, and each time they get better and better and better. And it feels really good to make something from scratch for yourself and for people you love. Like making someone a meal is a beautiful thing. And it's also helping me connect a little bit with sort of the lessons of one of my favorite writers and poets named Wendell Berry. I'm currently working on this book of essays called The World Ending Fire. It's very much not like his poetry. It's they're essays, you know, and a lot of it has to do with farming and being a good steward of land and the direction we want a society to go in and that kind of thing. But a lot of what he talks about is making something so you can appreciate it more. You know, if you build something yourself, that thing means more to you. And even a meal, if you make it yourself, you do have a stronger connection to it, I think. And I even think you judge it differently, because now you know, like, you know, it's not easy to make a really, really good biscuit. It seems like it would be, but it's not. So now anytime you have kind of an average biscuit, you're a little more generous. And when you have a really, really good biscuit, you really appreciate it, you know? It's the same, me and my dad were talking about the post office and my frustrations with how long it was taking something to get delivered. And then we both kind of started talking about how remarkable the post office is if you really think about what it is and what it's doing. If you think about the fact that, like, you can put something in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and walk it to the end of your driveway. And then a process begins. And at the end of that process, that envelope is on the other side of the planet. And it's delivered in such a specific spot to a specific person. And that really is kind of amazing. Or if you think about how your phone works, how it actually works, what it's really doing. The more conscious I am of those things, the harder it is to complain about them. And one of my goals, I think, is to complain less. I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying. I'm just trying. Even today, I'm trying. I'm trying to go, okay, well, I feel like this, but it is time to shoot the podcast. So I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to try to be honest, but not make a crappy thing and not make people feel bad if I can help it. And I'm just trying. And I didn't always realize that was one of the options. I remember when I was like 18, I read Johnny Cash's autobiography, Cash by Johnny Cash. I highly recommend it. And that set me down a path of reading all this stuff about Johnny Cash, as much as I could find, really. And one of the things I read about him was from his son. And his son said, you know, anger left my dad so quickly. He would get upset and just immediately be able to let it go. And I thought, no one's ever going to say that about me. It's too late for me to be that person. I'm not like that. But I also know that I'm not a bad guy, I don't think. So I was forever torn between, like, I'm not good enough for people to say things about me that they say about Johnny Cash. But I'm not bad enough for people to, like, say anything all that bad about me either. And it's only been in the last year that I realized it's totally fine to shoot for your legacy being, he was always trying, you know? He was always trying to be a little better and a little bit gentler and a little bit more graceful, you know? And it's only very recently that I realized, like, if that's true, that is a fine thing to leave behind, is a legacy of effort, you know? A legacy of not just being content with, like, well, I was born this way and then I had this kind of childhood and now I'm this kind of guy. Like, it's okay to be thoughtful and to just be trying your best. And that would be enough. If everybody was trying their best, this world would look pretty good. So I'm trying. In other really good news, and this will come back in the recommendation later today, I have a special recommendation after getting feedback about the recommendations. Some people were honest and said, like, I don't get much out of it, and that's totally cool. Some people really, really like them, and some people were kind of in the middle. Like, I really like the music ones, but I never watch the movies. Or I always read the books, but I never check out the records. And that's all really good, and it's nice to know. So I have kind of a new approach to the recommendation this week that will involve this story. But I got an email from the drummer of one of my favorite bands of all time. You'll recall a few weeks ago, a band I love called Idlewild had this book coming out, but they're Scottish, so to order it in the States was going to cost like $80. And I ended up just doing it at the insistence and donation of a wonderful podcast viewer. But before I pulled the trigger, I had emailed the band's web store and just said, hey, is there any way to, I don't know if you guys are aware of what the shipping and conversion and all that kind of stuff is doing to American fans. Is there any chance it might get published here in the States in 6 months or something? And a bunch of time went by, and then I got this really nice email from their drummer. And here I am, almost 40, jaded and cynical as the day is long. And I was giddy. Just like deep in fandom of like, oh my God, the drummer for Idlewild just sent me a really nice email. And I went and this is when it really comes in handy to have a young child, because I went and I interrupted one of my son's school meetings. And I said, dude, the drummer for Idlewild just emailed me. And he went, oh my God. And we both got real excited. And it just made me feel good. It felt particularly good to just be reminded of like, you still have that. You still have this like sort of awe, fandom, joy, connection, excitement in you, you know? And maybe it's worth trying to preserve. And maybe it's worth trying to coax out of you more often. So we'll talk more about that in a minute after I play you a song. This song is called Crows. It was the first song on a record I did called You Are a Ghost. And the title came from the notion that if you zoom out far enough on a timeline of all of existence, or even the Earth's existence, we are here and then gone in such a minute blink of time that while we're here, zoomed out far enough, it is as if we are already gone. You know, if you look at that timeline from far enough away, our part of it is so brief. And I was reading a lot about astrophysics and other things I don't understand, and it just hit me that you are a ghost. You're already gone, you know? And a lot of the record was about that. And the reason this song kind of kicked off the record is because I felt it kind of tied up a few of the concepts I was really grappling with, like struggling to sort of make peace with and understand, and still am. But part of it's about minimalism, about just not needing a bunch of stuff. But it's also about how like time is just away already. We're so swept up in this momentum of time that we need to be intentional about what are we doing with this time, and are we having the proper amount of fun? Are we having the proper amount of positive impact? Are we being thoughtful enough? Are we thinking too much? Are we taking enough time to just be foolish and in love and make biscuits and sit around and do nothing, you know? So I wrote this song that I think somehow, in ways beyond me, managed to sort of wrap some of that up into a quick 3-minute tune. And I was very happy to learn that the song mattered to people, and I got some real nice emails from people about what the song meant to them and specific circumstances in their life when the song sort of inspired something or soundtracked something, and those all meant a lot to me. And I won't share them now because you know, I'm crippled by the fear that people will think I'm getting a big head. Is that too honest? Oops. All right, This is called Crows, and it goes like this. It was blowing hell off the cross that night, so I crossed my heart and then hoped to die. You said, careful what you wish for, boy, you know it all comes true. Just 'cause you ain't through with the past don't mean it ain't through with you. This life gives what you look for, not what you want. So lead with your jaw and then take what comes. At the end of your life, just trust you'll have had enough. You just take what you can carry and leave the rest for the dust. All of your ghosts, well, they're haunted too, just rattling chains that they got from you, and they'll never put them down if you're still living in that house. But you're rearranging furniture when you should just burn it down. This life is just a train down a short track, moving so fast it could never turn back. But at the end of the line you'll find there was never any need. You just get on with your business in each town and then pack it up and leave. All of your treasures just feed the crows, and all of your well-wishers line up in rows, just counting down the minutes so they could say goodbye. You could save it if you want to, it's just a matter of time. Things you borrowed to afford are just sand in the tides. All right. I'm not a minimalist. Maybe in ways, but no one who has seen my record collection or guitar collection would accuse me of minimalism. So, today's recommendation, it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. So, let's get it out here first. This band is called the Lumineers. This record is called Cleopatra. When I held this record up, many of you had a reaction. Some of you went, ugh, the Lumineers? Some of you were surprised that I own this record. Some of you were like, oh, the Lumineers, cool. But I bet none of you didn't have a reaction. I'm going to put this down so we can have a longer talk about this record. But let's put it right here, see if that works. So me and my band, we had played a handful of shows with this other band that we liked a lot. And, you know, after the first few times playing with them, you know, we sort of developed like little buddy acquaintance friendships, and we would just talk about like, oh, what are you guys doing after this? What's coming up next? Blah, blah, blah. And we played a show with them, and I said, so what are you guys doing this summer, and the singer said, "Oh, we're going on tour with the Lumineers." And I said something snarky and snide and condescending and judgmental about a band that's more successful than me and has connected with more people and had a positive impact on thousands of lives. And he very coolly, he just said, "You know, man, you should revisit it." And I go, "Yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, man. It's there's some good songs on there. You should check it out." And there's something about like the tone and the fact that he and I liked a bunch of the same music and I liked his music, and that I went home and I listened to some of their stuff, and almost immediately after we went on a road trip out to Colorado. So I made us this like mix of a bunch of Lumineers songs, and we listened to it on the way there and on the way back, and most of the time when we were in the car. And by the end of it, I realized, like, these are some good songs. This dude's writing some good songs. I don't think they're changing music, and I don't think they want to. I don't think I'll be getting a Lumineers tattoo anytime soon. But I look back on it now, and I don't know why I was so snide about this band. And then I started thinking about a lot of the other people that I've heard be snide about this band, and the richest venom for the Lumineers comes from people that play a similar kind of music less successfully. So now I have to question myself about that. How much of this, is there some envy in here? And I really don't think that there is, because I don't view where they're at as a place I could even get to. They toured with U2, and I don't fantasize about getting that far, because I don't think I could, and I don't think I want to. I see arena shows and I go, I don't think so. But I just started thinking, like, when I approached it with an attitude of like, I want to figure out what to like about this, I was able to figure out what to like about it. But when I approached it with an attitude of like, oh hey, I can't wait to hear that song again, I was able to immediately key into that attitude of like, I'm over it. I'm cynical and jaded and better than. And thinking about that feeling I had when the drummer for my favorite band sent me an email, and it means nothing, and we're not friends now, and I'm not going to go on tour with them or anything. It just felt cool to see, like, oh my God, Colin, the drummer from Idlewild, emailed me. And thinking about telling you guys this Lumineers story, it got me thinking about how much of that is my choice. Because now I have confirmed that within me, there is this childlike, enthusiastic, joyful, loves music, oh my God, the drummer for Idlewild sent me an email fan. And there's also this snarky, snide, cynical critic of like, oh, it's on the radio, I don't like it. And I realized I don't like that second guy. And I really like that first guy. And my ambition lately has been to approach music and film and television and books and people with the spirit of the almost kid who got an email from the drummer of his favorite band, and not from the crotchety old bastard who thinks his opinion about something matters. Even if I don't like it, who cares? Dislike it quietly. Because, you know, that's a good record. There's good songs in that record. And there's really good lines. There's a line in that song, in one of the songs, where he's singing from the perspective of a sort of failed actress, and it's a wonderful song. But he drops this line where he says, "The only gifts from my Lord were a birth and a divorce." And I went, damn, that's pretty good. But when I talk about the Lumineers backstage with other traveling musicians, it's, oh, is it the Ho Hey band? Ho Hey. And it's just like, no, it's not that band. And the story of why they have that song is pretty cool, actually. They got their start busking, and they wrote that song to sort of command people's attention. And that's a good story. That's a cool story. Their records are produced by one of the guys who used to be in a band called the Felice Brothers, who are like indie royalty these days. And like, you know, They got good guitar tones, man. He's playing a bunch of old Guild electric guitars with gold foil pickups in them and just getting this great kind of jangly, planky, wonderfully clunky electric guitar sound that I just love. And it was always there. But I wasn't hearing it because I was listening to myself go, what are Lumineers? So like I said, I wouldn't dare tell anybody that like the Lumineers should be your new favorite band. Maybe they will be. Maybe they won't be. But if the Lumineers are one of your least favorite bands, I would look inward about how you're approaching the world and how you're approaching music. And even now as I say this, I can say like, I could have approached the beginning of this podcast as the youthful, excited, exuberant, I'm going to make something and people are going to watch it. Just a couple people, but they're going to care. And that's awesome. And I'm excited. Instead, I was like, I don't know. Politics is kind of not great right now. So, to tie it all up in a nice little bow, let's say today's episode is about trying. Trying to love music instead of hate it. Trying to feel hopeful instead of cynical. And trying to make better biscuits. Metaphorical and real. Let's just try to make better biscuits. Let's hope that on the day we all go, a bunch of people that we love and respect gather around and say, man, he really tried. He was always trying. He did his best. You know? I hope. I don't know. I know a lot of people will go like, oh, didn't he have like a podcast or something? I don't remember. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. It improved my mood, and I appreciate that. And is further proof that I get something out of this too. I'm not going to keep rambling at you. I'm going to let you go. But I hope you enjoyed it. Check out The World Ending Fire or A Bunch of Poetry by Wendell Berry. And listen to the Lumineers. Listen to anything that you think you're better than or that you're cynical about. And before you put it on, ask yourself, like, do I want to be cynical? Do I like being cynical? Do I like being so cool that it keeps me from enjoying things? Nah. All right. I love you guys. Be good. Take care. And we'll see you next week. Bye.